Baking bread is baking bread. The procedures for baking bread with flour. Flour and water are mixed while being heated to create bread. Light colored, low mineral bread is the end result of processing flour that is primarily wheat. For rye and mixed breads, darker rye flours with a mineral content of about 10% are used. Make sure your kitchen is evenly heated and free of drafts, if you want your bread to turn out well. When flour is the only ingredient, wheat flour is always intended. Wheat flour doesn't need to be sieved, if it is purchased from the manufacturer packaged rather than loose. On the other hand, rye flour typically needs to be sieved. Like all other ingredients, all types of flour must be used at room temperature. Water and milk must both be lukewarm, about 30 degrees. It is advised to use a baking thermometer. The lukewarm liquid should only be poured a little at a time into the flour. The final dough must be elastic but firm. Agents of leavening loosen the dough. Sourdough, whose bacteria and yeasts cause fermentation, is the original raising agent. Rye flour is baked using sourdough, while wheat dough is baked using yeast. Yeast-baked breads can be prepared more quickly and easily. Sourdough and yeast ferment the sugar, resulting in the production of alcohol and carbonic acid. That makes the dough rise. Dough can also be loosened using chemical leavening agents, such as baking powder. Baking aids, which work to improve the baking qualities of the flour, are also used in addition to leavening agents, which enhance, such as lecithin-containing substances and quelmel. Every dough needs to be properly kneaded. It will take you very little time and require no effort, if you have a food processor with a dough mixer. Otherwise, the dough must be vigorously kneaded by hand, which can be time-consuming with some doughs. Because the raw materials need to be thoroughly processed in addition to being thoroughly mixed to create an even dough. The dough should bubble and pull away from the bowl. The kneaded dough should always be placed in a warm location to rise and be covered with a clean cloth. Sourdough should double in size, whereas yeast dough should grow by half. Prior to proceeding further, run a finger test. When a finger is inserted into the dough, it must quickly close once more. Place the bread in the preheated oven, as described in the recipe. Each recipe includes a list of baking temperatures. Place huge loaves and loaves made of coarse flour in the bottom loaf, followed by rolls of all kinds and cake loaves in the middle. The flavor of bread is significantly influenced by the crust. High crust loaves typically taste better than low crust loaves, because the crust creation also depends on specific baking temperatures. It is crucial to make sure that the baking temperatures listed in the recipes are followed when baking the bread. Steam is required during baking for sourdough bread to rise properly. Place a bowl of hot water in the oven, or Carefully pour a cup of water in the bottom of the oven to make it. The oven door must be rapidly closed so that the steam does not escape. When you tap the bottom of well-baked bread, it makes a hollow sound. Brush your bread with water, or cooked starch solution as soon as it comes out of the oven, for a sparkling shine. For example, boil 1/8 of a liter water and thicken with 2 teaspoons cornstarch. Yeast dough preparation. Depending on the recipe. The flour, yeast, warm water, or milk, a bit of sugar, and other ingredients are needed. Make a well in the center of a basin. After sifting the flour, mix a little amount of flour with a little tepid liquid to dissolve the yeast. Then add the mixture to the flour pit and stir until a liquid dough forms. Location in a warm, not scalding place, with cover. This dough is also known as steamroll, pre-dough, and yeast piece. You can also make it separately in a small container and add it to the flour along with the rest of the ingredients, once it is sufficiently risen. It is crucial to understand that this pre-dough should never contain salt or any form of fat. The remaining flour, salt, the remaining lukewarm liquid, the melted, cooled, or stirred butter, the eggs, the sugar, and other ingredients, depending on the recipe, are added after the pre-dough has risen for about 10 to 15 minutes. The dough is then beaten and kneaded, possibly with a food processor, until it bubbles and separates from the bowl in your hands. The dough should rise until it has doubled in size. So cover the bowl and place it back in a warm location. Further processing is directed by the recipe. Another piece of advice is to begin with a loaf of bread that has simply been made puffy with yeast. You've probably used this method before while making cakes. As a result, it will almost probably succeed and entice you to attempt other bread recipes. Best wishes for your home-baked bread. Thanks for watching. If you like my videos, give me a like and subscribe so you don't miss any baking recipes.